This is the value of wrestling, the revolutionary force in wrestling podcasting.
Oh, I'm back and we're here on the Big Time. This is the Big Tyme Rants, and we're going to dig deep into the wrestling news. Bunch of free agents coming up in the WWE. What's going on with that? Is CM Punk being prepared to take the place of HBK? Is he the future of NXT? Lots to talk about there. And AEW, are they in the red? Is Tony going to have to go get a loan from Daddy? We're going to discuss all that and more right here on Big Tyme Rants. I'm here, and we're ready to get into it. We're going to discuss everything going on in the world of AEW. Ladies and gentlemen, it is crazy. It is crazy out there right now to think about everything going on in the world of professional wrestling. Lots of names being talked about, lots of names being spoken about coming out of WWE. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, and many other names all being thrown around as free agents coming into 2024. And what is going to go on? Where will they go? What will happen to them? Has WWE sat down and started having negotiations? We know sometime it seems like after WrestleMania, after time was added to Drew McIntyre's contract, that there's a good chance that his contract will be up, and we haven't heard any real talks or information. There's been a lot of back and forth between Drew McIntyre and WWE, where they have come to terms, they haven't come to terms. It looks like Drew McIntyre is definitely on to a great, what's the word I'm looking for? He's got a great storyline going. He's definitely got something going, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes going forward. Can't wait to see how they play this out. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, two big names that I know WWE doesn't want to lose. They've made their name here in WWE. Does Seth Rollins, does Tyler Black want to come back? Could Tyler Black wind up in AEW? I don't really think so. I think Seth and WWE, along with Becky Lynch, are going to figure out what's going to work. They are two big names on the roster. I do not believe they're going to go anywhere. I don't think we're going to see any change. I think Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins will be WWE for a long time to come. I think it's just going to be sitting down with these two. I don't think Seth Rollins has anything to worry about with CM Punk joining the company, and I don't think Seth Rollins is going to walk away from the company simply because CM Punk is here, but it is going to be very, very interesting. From there, we know Sheamus, his contract's up. We haven't heard much from Sheamus, so it's going to be really, really interesting what is going to happen with Sheamus on that end of things. So we're going to have to wait and see how that plays out going forward from here. So it'll be interesting to see what is going to happen with Sheamus and many other names. We know that LA Knight is also seems to be into contract negotiations. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with LA Knight. There could definitely be a possibility that LA Knight may stay with WWE. He may not. He's been pushed up to the main event, but we don't know. He would be a great starter if he wound up back in TNA as Eli Drake to return there. But I hope we get to work things out and that LA Knight stays with WWE. Can't wait to see what his future holds. Looks like he may have a U.S. title match with a Logan Paul coming around WrestleMania season. That's a lot of the murmurs. That's a lot of the talk. We're going to have to wait and see how that plays out. There are some other names, but we'll see what happens as free agency looms in the distance, mostly this summer for WWE. Also, talk about CM Punk, buddy, with Shawn Michaels' possibility that CM Punk will be the future of NXT. That may be part of Punk's agreement is that he will get to work more in the background and help you be creative and have control over some creative direction. Shawn Michaels picked up the creative control in NXT, never really wanting to have a position, but took it as a favor to his friend. But CM Punk is somebody who we know has talked about working in the backs. We know Collision was mostly ran by CM Punk. Could NXT's future be in the hands of CM Punk? Could they be breeding CM Punk to be the head of creative for WWE in the future? Could this be a place that Punk excels? It could be really definitely interesting Could he be working side by side with the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and CM Punk? Could they be running NXT together while CM Punk is still on the main roster doing what he does best? This could be interesting. This could be a great opportunity for CM Punk and his future in wrestling when he finally decides to get done with in-ring work. He's getting put in a position to become part of the corporate end. Weird way to say it all, but if he's going to go into creative ideas and help with creative, we know he was working creatively and trying to help AEW get creatively better. It seems like some of the younger guys there just didn't want to do that or just weren't into Punk's ideas. We don't know all of the details, and I don't know if it really matters. We just know that Punk has a creative mind and he has a good sense for the business, as much as Triple H and Shawn Michaels did for many, many years, and they're showing us now that they have some great ideas and understand the business, and that's what's going to be important. And we have to see how Punk understands the business and if he can be bred into that position and if he can be made into that position. Could CM Punk be the lead creative controlling aspects behind the NXT of the future? It'll definitely be interesting to see. Could definitely be something worth watching. I don't think it could be a bad idea. We know he has a creative mind. We know he worked with Paul Heyman at OVW. He would stay. He would help tapes and do all these things for OVW and gained a whole lot of experience. We know he was put in a position to have some creative control and direction over the show of Collision, which was a really good high-rated show until he left, and now it's plummeted into the basements of time and is not doing as good as it once was. So it's really going to be interesting what happens going forward if CM Punk gets to step into a creative position within WWE, especially in NXT. Great place for him to start and get his feet wet, working side by side, possibly with Shawn Michaels, working with Triple H in that endeavor. It could really be interesting to see what comes out of all this in the future. Let me take another drink. As we get ready to segue into AEW's financial issues. AEW has made a ton of money, but is in the red. They have made tons of money, but they are in the red. They are hurting. They need to make a huge deal with the TV rights deal. If they make a good deal with the TV rights deal going in the future, it could put them slightly into the black, into the positive. But AEW is definitely hurting right now. They are spending a lot of money. And I don't think this is the right approach, and I don't think this is the right direction for Tony Khan. We know that Tony Khan and his dad have just tons and tons of money. They have money to basically burn, and that's kind of what AEW is. Mr. Khan, Chad Khan, is throwing money at AEW. Let it do its thing, whether it's the right thing or the best thing. He's letting the thing do what it does, and it's getting really interesting in how that plays out. But in the future, we could have some issues with AEW if they don't turn a financial corner. If they don't renew their TV deal with TBS, could they go somewhere else? Could they still make them that same amount of money? I think the best thing for Tony Khan is to take a step back and reset his whole company as a whole. Maybe it's time to go back into Daly's Place, which is attached to the Jacksonville Jaguar Coliseum there, and record shows out of there. If you go watch NXT, which is performed in the Performance Center over there in the CWC, they have that arena there, and they bring in the crowd every week, and they fill it out, and they have their own group of fans that are there every week. And this is what AEW needs. When you watch an NXT show and you hear those fans chanting all these chants and whoop that trick. If you're watching NXT last night, it gets you hyped up. It gets you pumped up at home. And I think this is what AEW needs. AEW needs a home base as much as TNA needed for a long time. Originally, WCW, they all sat in a studio and built the show. And why not use Daily Place? Why not cut out a Rampage? Maybe cut back on Collision. Maybe cut it to an hour. Maybe you can do it 2 hours, but maybe you feel Dynamite and Collision both in the Daly's Place, or maybe you bring Collision back to Daly's Place, film Collision in Daly's Place only, and then travel with Dynamite across the country trying to promote Dynamite and get fans from all around the world. But your main thing is, I think you got to go back to center. You got to go back to where you started. I think you should go back into Daly's Place and start recording shows from there, whether it's singly Dynamite and you just record Dynamite, and build that fan base, build that importance, get back to the basics, save some money, or if it's recording Collision completely in Daly's Place, get rid of Rampage, just focus on Collision, build it out of Daly's Place, get it hyped up, then use Dynamite as your road show where you're getting attention. But things are going to have to change, and Tony Khan is definitely hurting his company right now. Without the direction, without the fans coming in and wanting to watch this stuff, it's going to get really hard to see what the future is going to be. and how AEW is going to hang in there. And we're not against AEW hanging in there. I want to see AEW succeed. I want to see AEW be what it is. I don't see AEW as competition for WWE at this point. Were they trying? Did they have some pace to make? Yes. But now I don't think they are competition. I think they need to go back to where they are and rebuild and work their way back up to that position where they may someday again be competition for WWE. Because competition creates crash. Eric Bischoff said it best. Controversy creates cash. Competition creates cash. He sings when two giant wrestling companies button heads and pushing each other to get better and be better. That is the key. But when one company gets better and moves away from the other company, then we have a problem. And this is where Tony Khan needs to go back and try to resecure what AEW is. Unfortunately, I guess he can go to Daddy, ask for money. His Daddy's going to give him money, and he's just going to let it burn. Because a lot of AEW stuff that they do in Pool and all this other jazz is just burning money, and it's not worth it. We love to hear Daniel Bryan come out to, the final countdown by Europe. Wild Thing for Moxley. We love these guys coming out to these great songs, but at the same time, is paying to have the rights to play these songs worth the value in the long run? No, Tony Khan doesn't do it all the time, but you got to wonder what is the best option. Now we know he's not paying Ric Flair. Ric Flair's pretty much paying for himself with Woo energy, and that's great. But I guess we still have to get back and focus on where are we losing money? How do we stop that off? We have an overstacked roster. I believe he has 188 people on his roster. That's huge and massive for 5 hours a week. How do you fit 188 people on a show or in those 5 hours of wrestling each and every week? It's completely insane. So how many people are just sitting back there collecting paychecks? How many people are quote unquote suspended off and whatever, just collecting paychecks? This is where AEW needs to get back to basics, figure out who they are, start cutting their roster down to a size that is manageable where they can use the people to get them over and get them on TV in the right way and do what is best for the business. Tony Khan, you're in the red. You're in trouble. I would think maybe taking Collision back to Daly's place, leave Dynamite on the road, and rebuild Collision to what it once was. Maybe your first kick. Maybe you need to take Dynamite back into Daly's place and reset and figure out what AEW is and build the fan base back up. You're not having the fan base. Yes, you're averaging 800 to 1,000 viewers. On your last Dynamite, you had 900. You almost had 1 million viewers in that first hour, and they quickly dropped off in the first 15 minutes and didn't really come back. You had a huge drop. You lost almost 200,000 people through your show until the very end when you had a pickup when Christian and Adam Copeland came on TV for their match. Then your ratings went back up. There's this dip. It's not working. You had a huge loss for the Jay White Jay Lethal match. There's people here who they're not watching this stuff, and you've got to look at the ratings. Who's watching what is important, what is going to bring people to stay consistent through the show, not lose 200,000 viewers from the beginning of your show till almost the last half hour of your show. At the last half hour of your show, yes, you gained some of that back, but you still lost over 170,000 people roughly through your whole show. And that is not where you want to be, especially when you're red. Tony, you got to figure out what's working and what's not working and get back to the basics. Figure out what AEW is. How do you cut costs? Maybe it's cutting a lot of that roster. That's for sure one thing. Maybe you take Collision back into Daly's place and build that fan base. Who knows? But we want to see AEW be successful. I want to see AEW be successful, and that is the key. Anyways, on the Big Time, this is the Big Time Rants. I appreciate you being here. Make sure you like, comment on this video. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're not. We're trying to make that march to 200, 300 before the end of the year. We want to be 1,000 going into 2024. We're breaking records. We're breaking walls, and we're coming on strong. This is the Value Wrestling. I appreciate you for being here. I'm going to get out of here. Until next time.